Go ahead, put it on real tight. Hope you brought your best tonight. They say they got the fireworks, yeah, they say they got the show. You're around the shoots, you're the best, so let's go.
This is Texas Toast, a production of TSC Entertainment. I'm your host, Miss Helen. Kick back and enjoy as we toast the best from Texas.
Hey everyone, welcome to the Texas Toast. I'm Miss Helen, along with one of my favorite musicians of all time, Jerrod Neimann. Hello, welcome to the Texas Toast.
It is so good to see you. I like to toast, and I like Texas, and I like Texas toast. So
yes. So where are you at right now?
I'm in my basement here in Nashville with my studio dog Hannah.
Yes. So that's your famous like red studio, right?
Yeah, it started out as just kind of when I first moved into this house, it looked like a Saw 4 movie set. It was pretty scary. Like a dungeon. So I was married at the time, and she was like, "Oh, you could do whatever you want with this room." So I just went a little crazy, but I love it. It's a good place just to neutralize whatever's going on outside these walls.
Well, I know that you're a native of Kansas, and then I guess you got some roots in Texas because you went to college at South Plains in Texas.
Yeah. So I was born right on the Oklahoma line. So Perryton, Texas was like 40 miles, and Amarillo was our closest airport growing up. And Texas is so awesome. It kind of radiates out to the surrounding states. So, I mean, growing up, Texas barbecue is still my favorite. And I've just, love Texas country music, love everything Texas stands for. In 1997, my parents relocated to Fort Worth. So I've had a lot of my life there too. And got started playing music out there in the stockyards in Fort Worth when I was a teenager, and just have a lot of wonderful memories as an adult. Pretty much all my memories are out of Texas, but definitely enjoyed my childhood out in Southwest Kansas.
So starting out with your music career, you go back to 1999. Is that when you were first signed? When did you finally get signed in really full-time music?
Well, I moved to Nashville. I put out, you put out your kind of mom and pop CDs of just stuff you've written. So I had put some stuff out, but I moved to Nashville in 2000, right around the turn of the century. And when I was turning 21, just because I wanted to be able to get into any place, if I was lucky enough to be invited somewhere or want to go check out some music. So I moved here and I started working at Chili's, doing a little bartending at the, Chili's. And I had a buddy that's from Denver City, Texas, that I went to college with out there in Levelland. And we ran into each other one night and we couldn't believe each other. We're in Nashville, hadn't seen each other, and started writing. Well, he ran into Garth Brooks and just said, "Hey, what's it take to write with Garth Brooks?" And Garth, in a much more eloquent way, I'm sure, kind of said, "Hey, drop some songs off here, and if something I can use, you'll hear from me. If something I can't, you won't." But like I said, I'm sure he said it much kinder than that, but that was basically what he was saying. And so my buddy shows up at my place, and he's freaking out. He's like, "I just talked to Garth Brooks. We got to stay up all night." And so we recorded like 18 songs, stayed up all night recording, and a little jam box. And I'm sure they were horrible, but for some reason, we dropped them off at the studio. And I was taking my mom came to Nashville for Mother's Day, and I was taking her to the airport, and I was saying, "Yeah, it'd be neat just to be, if I have a family one day, just to tell my kids that Garth Brooks was nice enough to listen to some songs." And literally probably within a minute, my phone rang and it said caller ID blocked. And I just getting out of college, I thought it was probably a collection agency or someone you're avoiding, clearly. And I answered it, and out of everybody in the world, it was Garth Brooks on the phone. And I got starstruck and started swerving, and my mom was like, "Pull over, you're gonna kill us." And we grew up about 3 hours from each other, Garth and I, and just kind of clicked. And you hear all these crazy, amazing stories about him because he's such a great guy, and so true. And so we started writing together then, and just having the opportunity to write with him and get some songs, it just definitely got a buzz around Nashville, because Music Row's so small that I was able to sign with Warner Brothers in 2000. Let's see, they've been 2001. So I've been fortunate enough to, I guess, 20 years I've been able to do music full time. So very, very, very thankful for that.
You have so many songs. I'm just going to start with some. Of course, your first number one was Lover, Lover.
That's right.
So how did you pick that song to get released? And how did you, I mean, did you have a feeling it would go #1, or what was your thoughts when you decided to release that song as a single?
So I'd already been through a couple record deals. I had a developmental deal on Mercury, and then I got on this little record label that was a disaster. The owner of the label ended up going to prison. That's how crazy it was. So I got to this point where I put on like 50 pounds, and I was depressed and just thinking, man. And then I realized that, it was my choice to move to Nashville and pursue my dreams. I can't expect people just to do everything for me, and can't expect every door to open. And you just got to persevere and be resilient. And so I just woke up one day and said, I'm going to make an album on my own. So I went to a buddy that had a little studio above a shoe shop. And over a year and a half, we recorded this whole album in the middle of the night when he had free time. So we'd go to the bar and just bring like 20 people back to the studio, and it was just chaos. But it's what it needed to happen to create this album. And I was finished with it. And then Lover's actually a remake from a group out of Chicago in the mid 90s. Right. And they used to play it in my hometown all the time because our radio station was just kind of independent, and I guess they liked it. So we just thought everybody knew that song. And some people do, but for the most part they didn't. And I thought it'd be fun to get, my buddies like Randy Houser, Jamie Johnson, and Lee Brice, and everybody to come in and do it with me. But I was the only one without a record deal. And I realized real quick that I'd have to get approval, obviously, from all their labels. So I went in on a whim and just said, hey, we should do a version of this. So that night we just played it's so minimal, the music on it, just a couple acoustics and a little percussion and a little bass. And then I sang the leads that night. And then when it came to the harmony, my buddy was like, who's going to sing the harmony? And I said, well, I guess I could try, because at this time I'd never sang harmony in the studio. So I sang all the parts the first night, except the real low bass part, and I couldn't hit it. So I thought, well, maybe I should just try tomorrow. My voice has a chance to grow back. And so we went back to that bar I was telling you about.
Mm-hmm. I love it. I love it.
And I was telling my buddy, I was like, man, who can we get to sing that low part? And then I said, hey, how many times have you been overserved, Jack Daniels, for instance, and woke up with a really, really low voice? And I said, man, screw it. I'm just going to drink a bunch of Jack, and then we'll just sleep at the studio and see if I can hit the note. So he did. We just waited till closing time, went back. He slept on one couch, I slept on the other. And the next morning I woke him up. I was like, hit record. And that's when I sang the bass notes on Lover. So I didn't know if anybody would go for this album. And I was writing for Brad Paisley's company at the time. And so I went to them and just said, man, I've never had anybody really help me. I'm not asking for handouts, but if you guys could just get this album to somebody, and if they don't like it, they don't like it, Well, by chance, a couple other things worked out where people were at lunch here and people were at lunch here. And at the same day, Warner Brothers and Sony reached out and were willing to pick up that album from me. So luckily I had some leverage because I had two labels. And I said, well, whoever can get it out first is who I'm going to go with. And so Sony was like, we'll put it out right now. And I didn't sign the deal. So they loved Lover. And I mean, I loved it too. I honestly didn't know if it would be like a hit song, but they were just really adamant about it. So it came out before I signed my deal, which was, unheard of here in Nashville, but I wasn't going to argue with them. And I'm glad they chose that song.
I love your stories. Just awesome stories behind the songs. Now, of course, One More Drinking Song is one of your signature songs, and then Drink to That All Night was a huge hit for you. And it was like when it was time to wake up and get going, because I did a morning show, that was like one of my go-to songs. So that's a good one. And as a matter of fact, I was playing that, since I live in a coastal tourist town, and we had some visitors across the way last night, and I was, just going through and refreshing and getting ready to visit with you today. And so I had Drink to That All Night on, and they're like kind of pretty far away. And they had some cocktails, and they were singing it like across the Gulf of Mexico. I mean, all these guys just started singing it, and they were like hooting and hollering. So it's just such a fun song. And another one I like is I Got This.
Oh,
that's like, yeah. And it's funny because I'm the kind of person, it's kind of like when I say I got this, there's two things. I'm serious because I'm trying to get in a big fish, or it's kind of like I hold my beer, watch this moment when I say I got this. But that's such a fun song.
Well, thank you. I tell you what, that was, it's talking about being on the coast and stuff. Growing up so landlocked, you know, just the fantasy of being by the ocean. I remember when Leanne Womack put out "I Hope You Dance," and the first line was, "I hope you always still feel small when you stand beside the ocean." And I thought that was such a profound line, because there's nothing that's more humbling than just going out to the ocean, especially when you haven't seen it for a minute. And so I've always tried to gravitate. I've always felt like I've gravitated to make music that tries to make you escape or, you know, go on vacation. And as time goes on and I've been able to see some really amazing places, I just find myself recording in that direction. And so I Got This was one of those that I was trying to just record some music where you could roll down the window or reel in a fish or just something that, you know, get your day going when you get a chance to relax and have some fun. So I'm glad you like that.
I love it.
We kick our show off with that.
I love it. And I have one more personal story to tell you about another one of your songs, and it would be Blue Bandana. When we first got it into the radio station and I previewed it, I mean, like, I couldn't sleep the night before because I couldn't wait to play it. There was just something about that song. And here's this hilarious backstory, because I was playing it so much, like I'd have my music on the boat. And so a friend of ours brought a friend of his, she was from Louisiana, had never met her. And it was kind of one of those things where the night before, of course, I'm playing, this is my newest, most favorite song. It's called Blue Bandana. So we were launching the boat and she went in the little shop that's there at the boat ramp, and she came out and bought me a fishing scarf that was blue. And like, I was trying to find it because I wanted to show it to you, because it was like, and she and I bonded, and she had never really fished offshore. She didn't know how to land a snapper. I mean, she was having all kind of difficulties, but it's things like that with your music that I just love. But yeah, so I had the blue bandana. I was the blue bandana girl.
Well, I appreciate you saying that. That's what's the coolest thing about, you know, you get caught up in, it's so crazy. You play music, you move to Nashville, you get caught up in the machine just to get shot back out into, you know, where you came from and try to play music for everybody. But just to get through that filter of people that really don't know anything about music. I always say there's suits and then there's boots in the music industry.
Yes.
And I'm sure you and I lean towards the boots for sure. And it was just, it's nuts to go through all that, but there's nothing that feels better when you finally get everything finally out and you realize that, you know, people care about the music as much as you do, or whether it's showing up in a blue bandana, of course, that makes you feel good. Or when someone comes up and says, hey, this was our wedding song, or, you know, anything that's personal, it just brings it all back in perspective why we're fortunate enough and lucky enough to be able to do that. So I appreciate you rocking the blue bandana. I would have used red bandana, but Merle already had that one. Can't mess with a hag, you know, you don't mess with.
That's right. And so you've also done a lot of USO tours, and you have a beautiful song called Old Glory.
I'll tell you what, I've always, like a lot of us, I grew up, both my grandfathers fought in World War II, and it just was one of those things, it's a no-brainer to me to respect those that clearly have lost their lives or their minds, their limbs, you know, they've sacrificed so much. So when I was asked to do the USO, I was like, of course. But what I didn't realize as a civilian is, one, that it would change my life forever, even already having that most respect for those that serve. But I realized, one, it's the military families that serve, because they have a loved one that's not just on vacation, they're in harm's way all day, every day.
Right.
And when we were in Iraq on Christmas Day, everyone was showing, you know, videos of their kids opening presents back home. And it breaks your heart because you wish they were together. And it wasn't until one guy walked up and he said, my wife left me yesterday on Christmas Eve, and I have 8 more months over here. He goes, I can't drive by her house or do all the crazy stuff we all do. And I was like, oh God. And the very next guy said that his mom had passed away 2 weeks before that, and he didn't get to go to her funeral. So I just thought, man, imagine the endless amounts of sacrifices, from babies being born to people passing away. And it just, I still can't get it off my mind. And so when I came home, I was watching the news, and some of our guys got ambushed in Niger. And I just thought about all those young men and women. I had the great honor of shaking their hands, and it just it hit me hard. And that song just kind of started pouring out. So it's my favorite song I've ever written, and for many reasons. But the main reason is to, one, say thank you, but also just to try to remind the rest of us civilians of maybe just a little bit more peek behind the curtain of what we don't realize whenever we're just enjoying life and breathing this free air like they intend us to do. And that's why they do it. And so it takes a special person to want to strap on the uniform and wear that flag.
Absolutely.
Very, very grateful for everyone that's ever done it.
My grandfather was in World War II as well. He was like my hero. So you've got a tour now. You've got some new music out. I want to talk about some of your new music, and specifically, I found it a lifetime of dancing to do. Is that like that's like a wedding song? Like I could see a lot of people using that as their first dance at their wedding.
You know, I'm actually playing it at a first dance of one of my buddies in Kentucky coming up here in a couple months. And I put out, so I went through divorce, and it's so crazy whenever you're so, you know, when you get married, you're obviously expecting to last forever. You wouldn't say, well, let's get married for a couple of years and call it quits. But it was just one of those things where you're really starting at a ground zero spiritually, kind of, I guess, also physically. You know, there's just a lot you face when you look in the mirror and just say, hey, what can I do to be a better person that someone deserves? What can I do to be a better person for myself and just well-being? And so I started writing, and it's crazy because it's like when you're happy, it's really hard to tap into some certain emotions because you're happy. And so going through that, I found myself writing some of my favorite songs, and I wanted to do a little EP called Lost and Found, and it was just talking about, you know, I guess myself. And I know there's a lot of people going through tons of tough times, especially right now, that I wanted just to try to step away from the, you know, some of the outdoor party music to just some more internal, you know, messages, I guess. So I started recording that way, and so I have a few other songs that I really love, and then Lifetime of Dancing to Do is kind of like the bookend of just, you know, saying, hey, there is happiness out there to be found, and you just gotta wait your turn and be ready to go whenever it peeks its head. So
Yes.
that's definitely, you know, definitely a song. It's probably the positive song on that EP.
Yeah, because I did preview The Blame, and the harmony is just, it's so heartfelt. The lyrics, the harmony.
Well, thank you. That was so right before COVID. One of my biggest dreams of all time in music was to go to Key West and record at Jimmy Buffett's studio. So I'd gone down there a couple of times just to see it and to see what we needed to bring and things like that. And we were all geared up, and then COVID happened. So I was like, well, okay, I guess I have to, like most of us or all of us, going to have to figure out something else. So I got a couple more pieces of equipment for this room. And I just said, you know what? I went to college for music and been doing it a long time. I produced all my albums so far. So I thought maybe I could just do it on my own. So all those songs from Lifetime of Dancing to Do to, you know, The Blame, all those, I played everything and wrote everything and produced everything just down here, right where I'm sitting.
Good grief.
And I just,
You're amazing. Gosh, kid, Lord, you are just amazing. No wonder I liked all your music for all these years.
Well, thank you. I'll tell you, it's the most rewarding thing. You feel like a little kid playing a video game because it's just, you're getting to feel a feeling you haven't felt since before you moved to town. And probably the most exciting thing of the whole music deal is I bought, you know, I love traditional country music clear back to the 20s. And we adopted the pedal steel guitar that you see the guys sitting down playing. Mm-hmm. It started out as the lap steel, and then which came from Hawaii. And then we adopted it into country music. And that's, you know, all the Hank Sr. and Ernest Tubb and all that stuff is all the C6 is the tuning on that. And then as time went on and it evolved into the pedal steel guitar, they changed the tuning to E9, which is the real modern sounding steel. So I thought, man, with all this, if it's from Hawaii, wow, and vintage country music, maybe I should just get a lap steel and go with the C6 tuning, because it's kind of, I wouldn't say it's obsolete. People that are playing Western swing and stuff, but obviously that's the sound. But I thought, why not just try to find something that could merge all those worlds together? And because historically speaking, it has. And so I bought one, and I thought I'll never probably be able to play it. But by the grace of God, the first day I just connected with this instrument, and I thought, whoa, I mean, I guess the good Lord threw me a bone. So I've been practicing a year straight on it and been playing it live and recording with it. And it's just if I had a soulmate that was an instrument, it'd be the lap steel.
That is too cool. That's awesome.
I'll show you.
Yeah, I'd love to see it.
So this is the one I play on stage, and it kind of has that old vintage, like that Western swing. Kind of has that like a
Wow. That's beautiful.
Old steel sound. So I've just been literally spending all day trying to figure that thing out, and I love it.
Well, I think you did. I think you did. I think you got that figured out, Jerrod. So how does it feel to be back out touring and doing shows?
It's awesome. I remember the first show was the Grand Ole Opry, and I hadn't played in it like a year. And I thought, you always get a little nervous for the Opry because it's so special. But I was a nervous wreck. I was like, oh my God, I feel like I'm 18, you know? Like, I was like, I don't mind messing up a little bit because it just happens, but I was like, I don't want to mess up the Opry. So luckily made it through with all those cobwebs. And then the first few shows, you kind of find yourself looking at the set list a lot and, you know, hoping you don't forget the words. But now we've been out enough to kind of get back in the swing of things and add some of this new music and the lap steel. And so it's awesome. And I'll tell you what, you didn't know if the crowds would be rocking or not, just where people's heads were at, but everybody's ready to get out of the house, obviously. So we've had some really fun crowds, you know, letting everybody cut loose. And I'm just glad to be picking and grinning, or picking and frowning. I guess slow songs, you pick and frown.
Right, right. And of course, Texas Toast Podcast, we are a branch of TSC Entertainment, and we're going to be lucky enough to have you in Kerrville for the Kerrville River Festival in October 16th, everyone. So if you're listening to the podcast and you want to catch Jerrod nearby.
That already sounds, I mean, just when you hear anything in Texas and then river and then festival.
And especially Kerrville.
Yeah, well, let's say Kerrville around
Kerrville.
Here. Kerrville. Yeah, but I love it. It sounds like something I just would want to go to. So the fact we're getting to play some music, I hope everybody will come out and let us do our very best, show you a good time. And you know, we try to honor all eras of country music, and just I'll always have some Texas in me at heart, just because although I know you got to be born in Texas to be a Texan, but my family's lived in Texas longer than anywhere else. And so I definitely love it and appreciate it with all my heart, for sure.
Well, it's been a pleasure and honor and just a treat to be able to visit with you. I'm just kind of like, I'm sitting here, you know, doing the interview, but yet I'm kind of like one of those, I'm like a fan of your music. Your music has brought me memories, lots of laughs with my girlfriends, lots of fun. And so looking forward to the new stuff that you have ahead of you, and hopefully see you soon down the road. One question before I let you go, and I can't wait to ask you this one. I asked this on the podcast before I let everyone go, and that is, if you were a cocktail, what would you be?
Oh my goodness. Well, you know, in One More Drinking Song, I merged a bunch of cocktails and came up with a Marga Daiquiri Screwalata on the beach. So I'm gonna have to go with that one.
We're going with that one. That's going to be my answer every time if I get asked that. That's the best.
Anything but O'Doul's. Although I don't mind O'Doul's, but it, you know, traditionally didn't fit my nature.
Right. Okay, Jerrod, thank you so much for taking the time, and it's been a blast visiting with you and hearing the stories.
Well, Helen, thank you for your time, and I can't wait to come see you. And I want to come catch some fish with you.
Okay, well, you can definitely do that. Head down this way. Our door is open all the time.
And with a heavy tongue, she knew where I was from. As she left, I dared to say, well, you can go to hell. Hell, I'll go to Texas. I've had my fill of every place but home.